everybody, this is Margaret Stockton-Davies here with Free Tours by Foot. The lockdown in London continues, so we're not up and running as a tour company, but we do have lots of time to sit around and make videos for people like you to enjoy. And the video that I am bringing to you today is about my favorite statue in London. Now, this statue does not depict a person, nor does it commemorate any kind of major historical event. It is in fact a statue of a cat. Now, this statue, which we'll get into in a moment, is available to be seen by the public. It's in Gough Square, that's G-O-U-G-H, and is a stop on my City of London tour. Now, today, obviously, we've not got the tours going, but once we're up and running, you'll be able to join at 10:30 on Tuesday mornings and 2 p.m. on Friday and Saturday afternoons. Now, the statue of the cat sits outside a house, and the house belonged to Samuel Johnson. Now, Samuel Johnson was a prolific Londoner in the 18th century. He was very well known for his public speaking, his speeches, quotations, and one of his most famous quotes actually is about London, and some of you have probably heard this before. Johnson is the one who said, "When a man is tired of London, he is tired of life, for within London is all that life can afford," which is obviously true. So Samuel Johnson makes an appearance on my City of London tour twice, actually, because firstly, we visit the church, St. Clement Danes, where he attended Mass on Sundays, and then secondly, at his house in Gough Square, and that, as I said, is where you'll find the statue. Now, the statue depicts a cat, and this cat in particular is called Hodge, and Hodge was one of Dr. Johnson's cats. Now, to us, that doesn't really seem like anything you'd want to make a statue about. But in the 1700s, not a lot of people kept cats as pets. Dogs were a lot more popular. So the fact that Johnson at any time had 8, 10, 12 cats, that was considered kind of weird. I think we might still think having 12 cats today is kind of weird, but I also feel like that's definitely in my future. 2 down, 10 to go. Now, Johnson had a whole herd of cats, but only one of them actually had a name, and that was his favorite cat, a big black tomcat named Hodge. And Hodge is the one depicted in the statue. Now, we're going to have a nice picture up, my producer assures me, of the statue so you can see exactly what I'm talking about on your screen. And you will notice Hodge looking very handsome. He's actually staring at his house. They're opposite ends of the courtyard in Gough Square. He's standing on top of a dictionary. And this is important because Dr. Johnson wrote the first ever comprehensive English dictionary. And Hodge was a very spoiled cat. Johnson took him to dinner parties, he attended functions and events, and Johnson also said that Hodge helped him write the dictionary. So I'm sure that's true. And that's why Hodge is depicted standing on top of the dictionary, looking to his old house. And then right in front of him, you'll see a couple oyster shells. And the oyster shells are there because Hodge lived on a diet made exclusively of oysters. That was the only thing he ate. Now, to us, obviously, that is crazy. But back in the 1700s, people's attitudes toward food were a little bit different than they are today. And back then, the value of food was placed almost entirely on how far it had to travel to get to you. So luxury food in the 1700s is something like pineapple, almonds, cashews, cinnamon, things that are normal to us today, but they come from hundreds or thousands of miles away from Britain, which back then would mean it would take weeks or months to arrive, which made it very expensive and very rare. So that is what wealthy people wanted to eat. On the other side of things, it was considered perfectly easy to take a trip down to the coast, walk out to the edge of the River Thames, go to any body of water and get yourself something to eat. What you and I today would call seafood. And because seafood was considered so easy to get, it wasn't considered valuable at all. So in the 1700s, seafood was the food of the poor. And it was poor Londoners only eating things like prawns, shrimp, scallops, crab, lobster. In fact, here in Britain in the 1700s, lobster was the food they served in prison. It was considered so cheap and disgusting that only criminals in jail should have to eat it. And the only food that was cheaper and more disgusting than a lobster was an oyster. Oysters were the cheapest food you could buy, and they were so cheap that it was actually considered really embarrassing if you were so poor that you couldn't afford to eat anything other than oysters. Like, you wouldn't want your friends or family to know about it. But Johnson, he wanted to give oysters to Hodge because they're cheap and cats like seafood. Easy. But he couldn't really ask anybody who worked for him to go out and be seen in public buying oysters, let alone buying oysters for somebody's cat. So Johnson did it himself. And in the 1700s, for a man of Johnson's wealth and status to be seen at the docks of the River Thames buying oysters, that caused a huge scandal. It was reported on in all the newspapers. Like, you know how we have tabloids today? That's not new. They had them 300 years ago when Johnson was a front page story. Some of his friends did not want to be seen with him in public anymore, and a lot of people actually thought he ruined his career. So when they built the statue, they included those shells to reference the fact that Johnson loved Hodge so much that he risked public humiliation and the end of his career just to make Hodge happy. And I think anybody out there who also is a cat owner will know that we will do anything to make our cats happy, and I believe they've been running around the background of this video, so if you happen to see that, consider it a bit of a bonus. All right, you guys, I'll talk to you later.